Okay, so Merrick, do you know what the scout motto is by any chance? He's a new scout, so this is the shortest thing.
I don't remember.
2
that.
words.
Be prepared.
That's it. Very good. So thanks for coming here and for volunteering to lead us in the pledge, Merrick. And thanks to your dad for bringing you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rick. Nice to have you in St. George. Okay, Council, you're all aware, we mentioned a little bit last week about a pretty incredible story that something that happened here in our town a couple weeks ago. I'd like to call Sergeant Dave Williams and Detective Derek Lewis up to the podium if we could. And if you'd maybe tell us a little bit about this, Sergeant.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. On February 14th, 2017, St. George Police Department received a report of a missing person. The family of 88-year-old Leroy Fitzel had reported that Mr. Fitzel had not returned from a drive he had taken earlier that day. Initial officers responded and canvassed the city for Mr. Fitzel, but he was not located. The case was then assigned to Detective Derek Lewis, the detective assigned to handle missing person cases. Detective Lewis followed up on several leads on the day following the initial report and checked several remote areas for Mr. Fitzel. On February 16th, which was Detective Lewis's scheduled day off, Detective Lewis, who is also a licensed pilot, sorry, I just lost my place for a sec. He's a licensed pilot. He decided to use his personal aircraft to canvass the area in search of Mr. Fitzel. Knowing that family was searching many areas on the east side of the county and towards Jacobs Lake in Arizona, Detective Lewis began canvassing south towards Mount Trumbull and the Black Rock Road area in Arizona. At about noon that day, Detective Lewis observed a vehicle matching the description of Mr. Fitzel's car stuck on a remote dirt road several miles south of the gypsum mine near Black Rock Gulch. Detective Lewis alerted Lieutenant Feltner and I, providing us with GPS coordinates of its location. With his fuel supply dwindling, Detective Lewis remained in the air and guided us to the location of the vehicle. We were able to confirm that the vehicle was Mr. Fitzel's, but he was not located with it. Mojave County Search and Rescue responded to the scene, and Mr. Fitzel was located just over 100 yards away, huddled under a tree. His health was poor from braving the cold, wet elements for 2 nights, but he was conscious and breathing. It was clear that Mr. Fitzel would not have survived another night. Mr. Fitzel was transported to DRMC, where he unfortunately passed away later. Detective Lewis's dedication to his job by using his personally owned resources at his own expense allowed Mr. Fitzel to pass away in the company of his family. The police department has also received many messages of appreciation for Detective Lewis's dedication and work on this case. As his immediate supervisor, this is the type of work that I've come to expect from Detective Lewis. He's a great asset to our investigations division and our police department.
Detective Lewis, we sure appreciate you. I had a chance to visit with you just for a minute. He also attended the graveside and I think maybe the funeral for Roy. Roy happens to be a neighbor and friend of mine and his wife, and I know others on the council. Betty knows them quite well, and these are beloved people, and of course all of our citizens we feel the same way about. But again, council, I think we know we're inspired by things like this when on his own time and his own dime, as we say, he did this. And I can tell you they expressed in both of those services their appreciation specifically to Detective Lewis, because you can imagine this is a tough way to go, but because of Detective Lewis, seriously, 100% because of him, they were able to say goodbye to their dad and their grandfather. And he had one son living in Germany who was able to, by FaceTime, say goodbye to his dad. That would not have happened if it weren't for your actions, Detective. So I just wanted to take this time to give the council an opportunity if they want to say anything, but to just thank you because it means so much to them. I know that. I hope you know that. I think you do. And Detective Lewis did not want this to happen today, but this is the kind of thing that I think we must call attention to when it happens in our city and by any of our employees, and certainly our officers and detectives in the police department. Thank you very much. Council?
Thank you.
Anything you want to say, Council? Chime in.
Just that we appreciate him so much. What he did was heroic and kind, and it's indicative of our whole police force, and we're so proud of every one of them, but especially the things that you do. Thank you.
Thanks, Betty. Again, you know, we should, I don't know, it's one of these things I don't know quite what to say. I don't think we should expect this kind of thing, and yet it's kind of what we get, and we're just grateful. We really are. Chief, thank you for creating and fostering this kind of a culture. I just, you know, I never dreamed someone would do that, frankly. When I heard about it, I was like, you know, I had absolutely nothing to do with this. You know, this just happened. I don't think the chief had anything to do with that part of it. It just, you know, this is Detective Lewis, so thank you.
You know, Mayor, this also brings forth the community-oriented policing that takes place within our city. And this really highlights it because it tells you and shows you that the police department is a part of the community, and we touch everybody's lives and they touch ours. And so I think that is above and beyond. Thank you very much. Thank your family for being here. Is that your children with you? And they should be very proud of you. We love you.
I'll bet they are. Okay. I think we could be done. But for those who are on the agenda, I guess we better go ahead. Gary, is the agenda, is there anything changing on the agenda and the addendum? Okay. Then we will proceed. First of all, we have this section of comments from the public. I didn't receive any comment pages. Did you, Christina? Are there any who are here to make comments of a general nature of items that are not on the agenda today? Okay. Then, and we do have a couple of public hearings, and so some may have come to make comments there. We'll proceed then. Gary, let's go to 1B.
Okay, the financial statement for January. So as you can see in your packet, the information is provided there. We're in, I think, excellent position so far during the first 7 months of this year. Our general fund revenues are up 11.4% over the previous year. And so unless you've got specific concerns or questions about any of those revenues, I'd be happy to answer them. But I think we're in good shape so far.
The only comment I'd like to make, the way we've now put the time frame on that form that shows where we're at, I don't know what you call it, a timeline, so we can see how we're doing. That's a new addition, and at least I haven't seen it before, and I think it's a great way to get us to wrap our heads around it a little bit, so I appreciate it.
Yes, that's good. Deanna's always very creative with that, so you see that. So we're in good shape with revenues versus expenditures there.
Great information, lots of detail. Things continue to go well. It's nice. It's what we like to see.
Mayor, I'll go ahead with the motion, if that's all right.
Yep.
I know Jimmy wants to do it too, and I should have. Sorry, Jimmy. I am very happy to approve the financial report for January 2017 with a special thanks to Mr. Gary Esplin and Deanna Berklasich for the excellent way that they handle our budget and our finances. We really appreciate it.
Second.
Have a motion by Betty and a second by Jimmy. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, we'll go to bid openings. The first bid is a professional services agreement with Rosenberg and Associates. This is for design of the erosion repair project down by the Springs subdivision along the Virgin River. As you can see in the attachment, the amount will be reimbursed from the Washington County Flood Control Authority. We'll have to do a bid opening later on, but I believe it's with Rosenberg. Is that right, Brett?
Yeah, Rosenberg Associates. And the cost on that is $37,530.
And so is that, I can't remember, is that fully reimbursable or just part of it, did you?
I think it's fully reimbursed.
That's what I was remembering, Jimmy, from that meeting. Any questions or anything else, Brett, that you want to pass along on this?
No, the additional comments do say below that the cost will be reimbursed by Washington County Flood Control Authority.
Okay.
This is part of that trail extension around down by the Virgin River on the east side of the River Road. Goes all the way over. Next phase is next to the Springs, and I believe this is what that's for.
I'll go ahead with the motion then, Mayor, if you're ready, to approve the professional service agreement with Rosenberg and Associates for the erosion repair project for $37,530.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy with the second by Joe. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is another professional services agreement with Horrocks Engineering. This, as you recall, maybe you do or you don't, but there's a big corrugated pipe, flood control pipe that's underneath Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, yeah.
That goes right by the service station down to Valley View Drive underneath the Sunset Corner from the golf course over. A few years ago, we had a year or so ago, we had something cave in there, and we had a gas truck that kind of went into that. And in looking at the repairs and sending people in there, the pipe is not in as good a shape as it could be. So this would be a contract to go in and look at it and see the best way to handle the fixing of that. So,
Anything to add, Brett?
Nothing to add. The cost on this one is $29,982.
Questions, council?
I just, that statement, that part of that is 24 feet under the roadway?
Yeah.
Is that not a typo?
It's really
it's
deep.
deep.
I remember when they had that
It's
excavated.
deep enough to get the grade to get out from under the road and from the
Wow.
north side.
I didn't know it was that deep. I have a vague recollection of being inside of that pipe at one time in my life, but I can't divulge any more information than that.
Yeah, your name's in there. We took a picture of it when we went through it.
Jimmy?
Yeah.
Submit
Yeah,
it.
84 inches, that's a big pipe, so kids can find those somehow.
Mm-hmm. I've been through a few of those pipes in
Yeah.
my day.
I'll go ahead and make a motion if we're ready.
Yep.
Knowing that this needs to be done, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the professional services agreement for the storm drain rehabilitation with Horrocks Engineering for $29,982.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy with the second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Next item is in your current budget, there's a repair of the Hidden Valley Sports Court and playground repair. We had, I think it was $325,000 or something in the budget. Anyway, whatever we had, a little over $300,000 is not enough to do the entire project. However, we feel like that we would be amiss not to do it now, which includes the playground and the tennis courts and that while we're doing it, rather than coming back later. And so we're going to try to absorb that within the budget. And if we have to cut a couple of projects out, that we'll look at doing that towards between now and the end of the year. So maybe the bid.
I do have the original budget amount, which was 317
Okay.
on that. 317,000.
We're staying tennis courts there, right? Or were we converting one of, what were we doing?
No, they're just tennis courts.
Stay in tennis
Yeah.
courts. Okay.
We talked about that, but.
Yeah, I know we talked about it, I just couldn't remember, yeah.
Yeah. And it probably makes sense, as it indicates in our packet, that to do it all at the same time.
Yeah.
I think if you're willing, council, we can find it's pretty close. I think we can find those additional funds one way or another. Do you have any questions, or Brett, do you have any other information?
I know we're just requesting the bid award go to
Royalty, I believe.
Royalty Enterprises for the amount of $356,270.16.
I think you just said this, Gary, or explained it, but do you think they can absorb it, or we
Yeah.
have to do it? Okay.
When I met with Kent, and they indicated there are some projects that we can delay if we have to, but we think we might be able to make it within the budget because they don't spend everything they have during the end of the year, between now and the end of the year. So,
Yeah. This one's needed done for a while.
right.
It has. This has been one, again, we didn't build this park, but
Right.
it was part of the way this worked with Ivory Homes. And, you know, sometimes things like this happen. In this case, it was the big cracks. And so we'll do it. And
We're going to do
right.
it like we do the pickleball courts with
Post-tension,
post-tension and all
yeah.
that stuff, right?
I'm ready for motion if you're ready, unless there are questions, council.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to award the bid for the playground and sport court repair at Hidden Valley Park for the amount of $356,270.16.
Second.
Motion by Jimmy with a second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is lights for the Bloomington Little League, the new field that's there, and the scoreboard. We only received one bid from Tri-State Electric. In talking, there was only 2 contractors that attended the meeting, and I think we're confident that the bid amount is acceptable and it is within the budget. So if we're going to get them up before the end of this fiscal year, we need to get going on it, so.
This is within budget, as I note down
Right.
below. And remember, this is the Bloomington Little League field, which is really the replacement of the Elks field. So, any questions or anything else?
April's coming, Mayor. Baseball season's starting. It's perfect
Oh, yeah.
timing.
Oh, they're going to be so happy.
Mm-hmm.
So aren't
They are
aren't the
very
poles
happy about
already
the
there?
field, by the way, that as far as when I say they, the Dixie Little League people, who, by the way, are all volunteer people in our community that run the baseball program, and they do an awesome job. They don't get paid.
We hopefully don't charge them for
Yeah,
lights. Is that what you're saying?
I know where you're going with that,
I'm
so
not-
I'm just.
Let's just
not biding my
approve the
time.
bid.
Yeah,
I'll go ahead and while I'm on a roll, make a motion to approve this, award this bid for the Bloomington Little League scoreboard and lights to Tri-State Electric for $55,041.
Second.
I'll say, I have a question.
Okay, we have a motion by Jimmy and a second by Betty. Questions?
Now, aren't the poles already there? This is just for the installation of the lights plus the lights?
the lights have already been purchased, so this is just installation, I believe, of the lights. We bought the lights, we had got a deal on the cost from Musco Lightings, and so.
And the scoreboard too, is that right?
Yeah, all the equipment's been purchased already. This is just for the
Installation.
Installation, wiring connections, all that.
Right.
Okay.
And a soon installation, right?
Yes,
Quickly.
it's possible.
All right. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, the next one is a professional services contract for architectural and structure design for the fire station number 9. This is the fire station to be built out in the Little Valley area on Commerce Drive. We're recommending we use Mesa Consulting, who have done the 7 and 8 fire stations. So we're basically building the same fire station at this location as those other 2 locations.
Questions on this, or Brett, anything else?
Nothing to add.
Mayor, I just want to make sure that the public is aware of this as well, that this should include an inclusion of a services substation type of environment for the police department, so that those people out in that part of the city will have that available to them as well. And I would be glad to make the motion, Mayor, that we approve the professional services agreement with Mesa Consulting for the design of fire station number 9 in the amount of $139,000.
Second.
Motion by Ed, second by Betty. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The last bid item is the Pioneer Park Emergency Watershed Project. You might recall this is a grant or a joint project with the federal government, the NRCS, for $528,268.76. This is going to be located just west of the new park, conservation gardens up on the Red Hill, and it'll be right along Red Hills Parkway. So you can see in the attachment that the recommended low bid is to Royal T Enterprises. This is a 75% from the NRCS and 25% from the local.
Is Royalty a local company, local firm, do we know?
Yeah, I
Not-
believe, I think they are. I can double check though.
All right.
Okay, Mayor, I would move to approve the award to Royalty Enterprises for the Pioneer Park Emergency Watershed Project in the amount of $528,268.76.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Betty and a second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? Again, just to be clear, the city's responsible for the 25% match of the total. And so we're approving the total amount. Is that correct? Is that what the 528 is?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you,
Okay, I
Brett.
think it's past 5:30, Mayor, so we'll go to public hearings.
Yep.
Item 3A.
Next item on the agenda, 3A. It's a public hearing to consider changing the zone from R110 to PDC Plan Development Commercial on 9.12 acres located approximately 550 East and 650 East Riverside Drive. Riverfront Medical Holdings LLC is the applicant. This is the PD zone request. This evening, the City Council will be reviewing the PD, the building elevations, the colors, materials. They're also requesting a height greater than 35 feet, and so that'll be a part of the consideration for the City Council. This is the site. They've broken it up into 3 phases. The request in the entire area be PDC. However, they're asking for approval for phase 1, which is this east portion of the property. And so the building elevations will be for the phase 1, but the zone change will be for the entire 9.12 acres. Phase 1 is 4.32 acres. The general plan is professional office. That was zone change, or it's not zone change, that was general plan amendment last year on August 4th. The City Council reviewed and approved that general plan amendment. Current zoning is R110, which is a single-family 10,000 square foot minimum zone. This is the site layout. This is phase 1. This is what we will be reviewing. But again, they're asking for the zone change for phase 1, 2, and 3. The other phases, when the applicant is ready to develop, they'll come forward as amendments. So the City Council will have an opportunity to review each of those phases. This is phase 1. This is the site layout. This is the building. They do have the 10-foot landscape strip that's required along residential. Both on the north and the east side is zoned residential. On the back side, there's an irrigation easement, and so that area will be left open.
Is that going to be the name of the street right there?
Hughes, Jimmy Hughes Lane. You going to recuse yourself, Jimmy?
I wish this were my project.
You're right. It's no relation, right?
On the north side against these residential, they're going to have a 30-foot landscape buffer, and that's because of the irrigation easements. The kind of vegetation they put in this area may be limited, but during the site review and the construction drawings, we'll review that with the appropriate department.
So will irrigation pipes still run through there?
That's what we don't know.
Because
That's what we'll
where
have
is
to-
it going from there?
Sorry, that's out of order at this time. This will be a public hearing, but right now it's presenting by the staff. Yeah, we'll take comments in just a minute, okay? All right.
It's on the back along the circle. There is an open channel. I'm not sure what it does when it reaches this area. I know there's
Okay.
that 30-foot easement. That's something we'll have to work through.
Okay.
So here's the site layout. They meet all the landscaping requirements. Parking, they're parking at 1 to 250. So they meet all the code as far as the site goes. They are requesting a full access here. This one, they're requesting a right in, right out. We'll have to look at that as part of the civil drawings and their access. They are doing a traffic study now, and so once that's submitted, we'll review that. It may limit the access at this location
Onto Riverside.
on Riverside. Yep. So this is the building. It's a 3-story building. It's 57,000 square feet. The height is 42 feet in height, and again, anything over 35 feet requires approval through the PD. They have a varying types of materials. They have some concrete, some aluminum, and some wood accents. I do have the materials board.
You can just be like overseas and say aluminium.
So they did provide the materials board for council's review. This is a perspective. This is looking south. So this is from the existing residential. This is if you're looking out towards Riverside. This will be what they'll be viewing. Again, the materials board. The uses, it is a PO land use designation, and so the uses with the PDC fall in line within the PO. The applicant during the planning commission meeting requested a pharmacy and durable good medical equipment. Planning commission spent some time discussing that, and they put limitations on the pharmacy and medical equipment. The limitations were that it was ancillary to a permitted use. It wasn't standalone, and it wouldn't be like a Rite Aid or a Walgreens. It'd actually be part of the main building. They felt comfortable with the addition of that use under those specifications. Again, the other uses are all in line with the PO, land use designation, medical office, dental, orthodontic office, general office, long-term care facility, and again, that addition of pharmacy and durable medical equipment. This is the exhibit that was provided by the applicant. Here's a couple pictures. This is Riverside looking north. This is the circle. You can see the irrigation ditch located here and here. Planning Commission, they reviewed it and took public comment. They did recommend approval of the PD zone change. A couple of the comments from the Planning Commission, that is, the developer will be responsible for installing roadway improvements along 1100 South Circle and Riverside Drive as indicated on the site plan, which includes a deceleration lane along Riverside. They also recommend approval for the building height from 35 to 42 feet. And that concludes staff's presentation. If the Planning Commission has any questions.
Any questions, council, of staff? Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here? Would you like to say anything, Andrew?
I'm Andrew Sorensen, part of the development group. Thank you to the council for considering this zone change, and also to the members of our city. I know there's some here that have concerns or at least want to make a statement, but we've tried to work and listen to the neighbors that are nearby. We want to be good neighbors. and we look forward to moving forward with that. Thanks.
Is there anything in terms of the irrigation that was mentioned? Any plans there, do you know, to either pipe that or what? Any thoughts there?
I think we need to get into the details of the landscape plan to determine what that would be. We know that when we, before we even came to the first planning commission, we went through the neighborhoods and knocked doors and talked to the residents. And one of the things that we thought would be a nice gesture is to offer that instead of a 10-foot landscape area, we did a 30-foot park strip there to give just a little bit more separation for those people that have those backyards. And that gives plenty of room to do whatever we need to do with the irrigation water, whatever,
Okay. Any
Andrew, I have a
questions?
question.
Joe?
If the property owner to the east were ultimately to make that into commercial or something similar to that, would that irrigation line still be viable? Would it still be needed? Is that the only place that it goes to?
John, sorry,
I don't
where's
know.
the water coming from? Isn't it coming from?
East to west?
It's coming from the east, right? Oh,
Yeah, it's coming from,
St. George
so I met
Canal
Jeff
Company.
Lance out there the other day, and he says he has a valve right
I
here,
thought it went
and
to,
maybe right here, and basically he opens that valve, and then it provides irrigation water down here for these properties to flood
it's-
irrigate.
So the
So
water's
it's coming off
from
of
the
a city, it's coming off of right here where he opens that valve, and then he flood irrigates these properties.
so my question was still the same then. It is coming from the west side to the east.
or the north.
North?
No, that's. West.
Coming-
No, you,
That's what I was told by irrigation. He might know better than me.
That's the high point, that northwest corner.
Scott can tell us,
Scott, where's it going?
maybe.
It comes from either the east or the west. But I do know that these fields are the last user on the ditch. So, in talking to the adjacent property owner, he thought that it would possibly be piped through this development so that it wouldn't be an open ditch. But they are the last users on the system.
That the canal, St. George
St. George Valley
Canal Valley.
Irrigation Company.
And it comes, it's a main line, it comes from the east to the
Ties-
west,
and it-
ties it up, and then
ties
it
into that
goes
snow
on up
park.
to the school, up
Right.
to the J.C. Snow Park. That's how the water is brought up to the J.C. Snow Park, one of the
Right.
ways. And we have a dual connection coming the other way with reuse water.
Yes.
Scott, does this mean that that water won't be going out onto Riverside Drive all the way up to the lanes that we've been experiencing for the?
I wouldn't think
So
they would want it in their building.
In their parking lot?
So that's going to take all that away.
It should,
So
yes.
this will be a great
Yeah,
improvement too
'cause
and safe.
that water is run off from the flood
Just-
irrigation of those
Right,
fields.
it just goes right out. That's wonderful.
Except for there's still
Except for
that,
the one piece to the east, the field that the Mayor MacArthur's family owns. And I don't know what they're planning on doing with that as far as irrigation or not, but
One comment as it pertains to the water. We did purchase water shares with the purchase of the property. And so we may use some of that for the irrigation. It would be minimal, but we wouldn't intend to obstruct the use so it could continue through to the next property.
okay. Anything else, Andrew?
I don't think so.
Any other questions for the representative, for Andrew?
Now plus, you'll be able to still see those horses and cows out there, so we still have that feeling that we're accustomed to. It's kind of nice, but it's changing.
Maybe not in the office building, but
Yeah.
yeah, close by.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any other questions for staff? Okay, if not, then I will open the public hearing at this time for anyone who has come to provide input, ask questions about this. And if you come forward to the microphone, if you just state your name for the record, that'd be great. This is it.
My name's Jay Smith. These buildings, this one building will be right in my backyard. We are happy that it's that and not housing. A few concerns. I would request, I don't know, I think I'm probably the only one here, but I would request that they build the building behind my house first, because there's going to be noise involved here. And if they built it first, it would deter, you know, they could build it first, and then the other two buildings, you know, it would block out a lot of that, you know, the construction end of it, you know. Your irrigation, you've got a cement ditch that goes, my backyard is all blocked in, and you have a cement irrigation ditch that's probably, we'll call it 20, 25 feet. You know, that's existing. And then there's a cement one on the north end. And what they did was they flood irrigated that. I don't know, you know, what you don't know. And living there for over 13 years, we love where we live. It's quiet. You know, you never know what you're going to get with new neighbors. So we were real happy about these buildings going in. It's gonna take our view out, but you know what? You have to sacrifice in life. You know, that's, you know, life is, that's the way life is, and I'm all for progress.
Okay.
You know. Another question, I talked to my neighbor, she lives 2 houses, she couldn't make it. But starting times of construction, you know, not too early in the morning, like 6 or whatever. We do have one baby along the row of houses that, you know, that'll be, you know, basically in our backyard. And are they going to have their own block wall, or is our backyard block wall going to be, you know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I believe it would be the existing wall would be, unless you're adding another one, Andrew, I don't know. Or we were?
Well,
Just, you know,
Where
it's all
there's-
right, because you know what? I mean, because we were told that they're going to plant trees back there or something, and they're going to landscape it.
It's what they've shown, and
Uh-huh.
where this is what's called planned
This
development.
is what I have,
Yeah.
so there's not much, but it's, you know, it helps.
When it's planned development, which is what they're asking for here, that
Uh-huh.
means they have to show us and we get to approve what's done, including colors and materials of the building and landscaping. So, yeah, we can ask questions, and it appears to me that when you show those trees and the little walkway, that's what's going to be there.
Okay.
Right, Andrew?
Well, minus the walkway, we thought that would be nice and maybe tie into the school, but residents felt like that might be a security concern.
Okay.
We're listening and we're not.
Okay.
But there will be the park strip and the trees.
Okay.
Now, is that across the street from the school?
Well, we still need to cross.
I'm just talking about, I'm talking about behind my house, what they're going to do there. Yeah.
Are you on the west side or the north side?
Huh? I'm on the west side. My house is this last house right here.
You'll still have a building
Yeah,
quite
so this
well. Our building is going right there.
But
This will still all be filled for.
this is the first building, isn't it?
On the side right now.
See, and I requested they build that one. You know, if it can't happen, it can't happen, you know, but.
Okay.
But, you know, I thought about the noise end of it, but it's all right. I mean,
Okay.
it's going to be, what are we looking at? A couple of years building these buildings, or?
We hope to be done a year from now.
Really? Good deal. And when are they going to start? Proposed?
We need approval first.
Oh, approve it.
Okay.
You got my vote.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for your time.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr.
it.
Smith. Appreciate it.
All right.
Mayor, just maybe a clarification on that. Where this is a PD commercial zone versus a residential zone, they're required to install a 6-foot block wall all the way around their project.
Where there isn't one, or in a,
There isn't one. Right.
okay, excellent. Yes, ma'am.
Jean Meekum, and I live.
Will you pull this down? Yeah.
Jean Meekum, I live just north of this project. I'm not happy about the height of the buildings. I know there's nothing I can do about it, but
Well, you're here talking now, and so that's something.
I think that 3 stories was just a bit much. You know, when they build the medical buildings to the west of that property, they build them more like homes, and it fit in. It looks a lot nicer. This kind of looks like Coral Desert over there. But they did make sure that our street wasn't going to come through. That'd be closed off so that we could keep some of our privacy and our quietness, so we don't have a lot of traffic through there, because we have a great neighborhood. And it's very nice. Everybody just loves where they live. They take good care of their homes and everything. And I have another concern about light pollution. I know that these places have to be well lit, and we have a lot of street lights around our neighborhood, and we can't see the stars much now, and I had a concern about that. If there's any way that they can be dimmed down in the night or what, or do we have to have bright light 24/7? So that's my concern. Thank you.
One thing I can tell you is we are looking, in fact, we looked last week at a new, some modifications to our lighting requirements. And I think council, if we wanted to do that, even though it hasn't been passed yet, I think we could say that we want it to tie to that new one, which Andrew, I don't think is onerous at all. It's just some little bit different fixtures and stuff to make sure that it's as night friendly as possible. It's not way out there. It's just a little bit better in commercial areas, especially when they're adjoining residential areas. So that might help a little bit.
I like to see the stars too.
Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Meekum.
I am Jill Berglund. I live at 550 East. This is right up in here. My concern is when they get when obviously it's going to be approved. When they approve this area, and are they going to improve those two spots right away as well, so they don't have to come back and re-ask for those spots on this side over here?
As I understand it, we'd be approving the zoning, but they would come back and show us the elevations, the specific
other
of those two buildings. Is that correct, John? Yeah.
Okay, so this one story that's going to be back here, is that correct? Eventually?
We're really not looking at that. So really, we don't know yet.
Is that going to be where the long-term health care is going to be, or is it going to be in these three?
It is a potential use. Is that correct, John?
Okay, so what are you going to have in the first building?
I think as what was stated before was a medical office, potentially pharmacy. If it's tied to that building, it's not a separate. So this would be like kind of doctor's office pharmacy. What else? Medical equipment.
Long-term, you said long-term.
That's for the total site, but not for the first building, I don't believe. Is that right, Andrew?
Right.
Yeah.
The uses that we're planning for that first building are, it's physician clinic offices. And then there is a pharmacy suite, but it's inside the building, it's on the first floor. And the durable medical equipment isn't even in its own space, but it's something that the doctors can do. They can prescribe it and sell that from their office.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
the long-term facility isn't part of that first plan?
No, but we anticipated maybe someone would like to do that would be something that could be a single story, maybe toward the back of the property in the future, but we don't have that in place yet. Nor do we.
There's going to be a one-story building back here.
Well, that was our intention, was to not put a big tall building back there close to the,
Right.
we thought a single story would better fit and blend in.
But again, the beauty of what's called the planned development commercial zone is whatever the owner wants to do, they have to bring it back to the council at the time they want to propose it, and we get to look at it, and so do you. We can look at it, for that parcel.
As far as that water goes, this area north of this used to be a cow pasture, and they would flood it all the way down 500. It was just an open trench. Then when they put the houses in, they made that a pipe. So it comes out right here in the corner.
Okay.
You can't really see it. That is a really ugly spot that the city has never taken care of. It's like a dead zone because the wind blows from west to east, and they have that fence right there, and there's bushes right there, and all the trash from the people that live on 1100 South that flies out of their trash cans gets stuck right in that little corner. So I don't know if there's an answer for that, I don't know. But all the water that comes from these homes that flows downhill goes right into this open field here because that's the way they developed it. The city developed that way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we all want that wall there, but there has to be something there to drain off the water that's
You're
there.
right.
Now, the person that lives right in this cul-de-sac, they were worried they didn't know if you're going to make this a 2-lane, you know, because it's only 1 lane right now because of the way the road is cut off. So if you're going to, but they go in there and they have a cul-de-sac, so they didn't know if it's going to be a bigger cul-de-sac there or not. I don't know what you guys decided last time.
I don't believe anything has been decided yet. Is that correct, John?
They'll have to finish it off the city spec, so
Okay. So it'll be a little bit.
Will they do that in the first phase
Yeah,
or
okay.
they'll do it when they develop that portion.
second phase?
Okay.
I
So
guess.
what that water does, it comes down here in this open ditch and goes over here and still waters this fellow's property, the one that's not being sold. That's the
Right.
whole idea of that.
Right.
So kids get in there, they put their toys in there, they put their boats in there, and they watch it drain off. So I don't know, you guys gonna have to figure that out. It's
Yep.
like a little mud puddle for the kids.
Sounds like fun, doesn't it?
Looks a little dangerous. At least they're older children, they're not too big. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Mayor Pike,
Yes.
my name's Tad Griffiths. I own Royalty Enterprises. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for awarding Royalty Enterprises contracts tonight. That's what I came for, and I appreciate that.
Well, you're sure welcome.
In watching your discussion here, I would just like to say that I think a zone change for this parcel is very favorable to the area. When the Washington County School District builds a school in there, it does change from residential to maybe some other uses, commercial being a very good one there. If the city was to approve a medical plaza there, I think it would be a great addition to the city and the community. I would like to point out that that field has been irrigated, flood irrigated for years, and that's a detriment to River Road. River Road can suffer a lot of... Riverside Drive, excuse me, Riverside Drive can suffer a lot of damage to that flood irrigation. Anything you guys can do to change the zoning from agricultural to commercial and stop that flood irrigation would be really good for the city and Riverside Drive.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Mark Griffin. I live right there. So I am directly north, and my backyard touches this project. The first thing I'd like to say is I am for the project, the use of the project. I think it's a good neighbor to have. I'm a little concerned about the height of the building. We purchased there, and I moved, believe it or not, from this lot 6 months ago, from that one. I moved 2 houses away. So I've been here for 22 years in that house with this neighborhood, and I've always had a view out my backyard. And I'm kind of concerned about the 42-foot building. And I understand the economics of going up. I'm a business guy, so I understand that. It is a concern. I'm willing to live with it as long as we have some kind of guarantee of a wall, a good sized wall. I don't want people looking into my backyard from that building. I know it's a little ways away. One of my questions is that ditch that runs right behind our house has, we were always told that that ditch actually is on our property and we could not build on that because of that ditch. So I'd like to make sure that that gets looked at somehow, because if I can gain about 8 feet of property, I would love to have that. I'm not sure how that works with the ditch though, if I would have to provide an easement. And currently our fencing back there, across there, there's one house that has a block wall fence and I think 3 that have chain link, because we weren't sure what the future held on that property. So I would like some kind of assurances that we would have a block wall fence, and if possible, higher than 6 feet. 6 feet is not very, I am 6 foot. So if I'm standing there and I can look out over that, that kind of makes me nervous. So I would request that that be bumped up a little bit there.
Gary?
maximum of 6 feet high, that's the ordinance, unfortunately, but that's, for us short guys, it isn't a problem, but taller guys it is, I guess. But it is 6 foot, and they will be required to install that wall.
So they can't go higher than 6
No.
feet?
Not
So
under the ordinance.
I will have a view off my deck and sitting there of a parking lot. Okay, and we go back, how do we go back? There was one of these pictures. How do I go back on this?
John will
thing?
help you.
Let me just clarify also, is my understanding that's an easement that, for the irrigation line that you were talking
Yeah.
about. That's an easement that will probably remain in place because they're not going to be, even if they did away with the cement and the irrigation for that field, that still provides irrigation water that goes clear to Dixie High School and is pumped up on top of the hill to do irrigation. So that irrigation line will be in there forever.
Forever.
Well,
So
nothing's forever, but the
Agreed.
foreseeable future, we're planning on using that
So basically,
water.
my backyard where it stands now will be the wall? Okay. And another question is right here, this, is that a parking cover? What is that
It's
structure?
covered parking is what the applicant's saying.
I mean, now, how high is that? Because right here is my property, and I'll be able to look over this tall 6-foot fence and see that now, too.
Do we have a height on that? Is it in the packet there?
They're usually 12 to 14 feet. This is a better perspective on the visual from your house.
Yeah, so yeah, this is what I'm gonna see from my house. So instead of Webb Hill, now I have this. And that's pretty hard to swallow after 22 years being there. I understand growth. I understand all that. I'm for the use. I'm just worried about the 3-story, and I'd like to make sure we have some mature landscaping put in there if possible too, right away, because that's important to keep that sound out of there. And that's all I have.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Any other comments on this? Item 3A. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing at this time, come back to the council. Andrew, is there anything else you or Travis would want to say?
Quick comment on the height. We considered another alternative to do the development we intended would require two-story buildings, with the second two-story building being further back, and this is less intrusive on the view. This is a better view.
Because it's further south, I guess. And
it's certainly, you know, I like a good view too. I used to live out in Washington Fields, and I'd look out at my backyard and see this desert, beautiful desert and fields. And someone eventually built behind me. But we're proposing a change from residential to this planned development commercial. And if the current zone stays, there's a chance that a house could be right there, which would be a lot more intrusive than what we're providing.
It's true. A house could go 35 feet and go right behind the wall.
Like I've told you guys before, my neighbor's bedroom is more in my backyard than my bedroom.
Wow.
Seriously, it's like right there. They built their house right there in my backyard. No, not Don's.
All right.
The other thing that's at least worth noting, there is a slope. It drops in elevation running north to south. And so the effective height, I think we're talking last in the planning commission, is maybe closer to the 35, 36 feet. Anyway, if you're looking from the north.
Okay. Thank
That's
you.
all.
Any other questions?
There's none of those other concerns that you've heard tonight that you're not actively working on mitigating, right? As far as, I know some of that's going to be on that other property that we're not talking about tonight, but.
Yeah, I think that northwest corner will be one that we need to work carefully with.
Right.
With the city? Ed?
John, just for the public, confirm for us that the retail services, the pharmacy and the medical supplies, that'll be limited to only those items. There's not going to be a general retail business run out of there.
Yeah, if you look at it, it's regulated and it's very condensed in the use list.
Right. Just want to make sure that.
And I should state that they're about 130 feet from the residential property to where this building's at.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, council? If you're inclined to make a motion to approve this, of course, there are the findings and conditions of the Planning Commission. And one thing that would need to be included would be the building height. Is that correct, Gary? So,
Mayor, I'm inclined to make a motion subject to the Planning Commission requirements and at 42 feet.
correct.
To
For
change.
phase one.
Phase 1, to change the zone from R110 residential to PDC Planned Development Commercial on 9.12 acres located approximately on Riverside Drive.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Motion by Betty, second by Ed, for this property. This is at 550 East and 650 East Riverside Drive. Any questions or comments on the motion, council?
I'd just like to say, I think the people developing this property have gotten, this is a prime example of getting way out in front and trying to communicate with the neighbors. I want them to know that we appreciate that, and encourage them to keep doing that as this develops. And they've done a really good job of trying to mitigate some of these concerns that the neighbors are having. So I'm thankful for that.
We'll second that as well, Mayor.
Okay. If no other questions or comments, all in favor, starting with Ed, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda under public hearings is item 3B, public hearing to consider changing the zone from A20, which is agriculture, to PDC, Planned Development Commercial, on approximately 19 acres. And it is generally located north of Mall Drive between the Virgin River and 3000 East. So again, on the screen, the request is to go from A20 to PDC. Here's the acreage. And what you'll be looking at for this project is a 5-lot commercial subdivision. And 3 of the lots, the request is for administrative professional businesses, and I'll show you the uses on that. And part of the 5 lots is lots 1 and 2, which would be commercial businesses. So just kind of a quick chart here, what you'll be looking at. The zone change, A20 to PDC. You'll be looking at conceptual layout. You'll conceptually look at access. In particular, you'll have southwest spine building to look at, and I have the elevations for that. The other buildings would come in the future as amendments, and the materials and colors for that southwest spine building. And again, you'll be looking at the uses. The project name is called the Fields at Mall Drive Phase 2. Rosenberg Associates represents the applicant, which is SLR. The location again is given here, the acreage. The general plan, part of the property, and I'll show it, is professional office, part of it is commercial. And this just shows conceptual future lots and their square footages. I won't read all of those right now, but it's in your packet. And lot 3 is where they'd like to do the building for southwest spine. Do it in 2 phases. Phase 1 would have a 2-story building. And the height, again, is a 2-story. And I'll show you the elevations. It's really the bulk of it is 37 feet. There will be a parapet section that goes up to 40. So here's the aerial view. Here's outline the property that's involved in this request to change the zone. For reference, it's right across the street, basically from Lynn's, the new development. This shows a zoning map. All of the property is A20. Again, across the street is Planned Development Commercial, which is Lynn's. And that's called the Fields, and this on the north side is called the Fields Phase 2. So this shows the difference in a general plan. All of this lighter color is PO, professional office, and basically on the corner here is commercial. The uses, mayor and council, I'm not going to read all of these unless you want me to, because it would take a while. The Planning Commission spent a long time going through the uses and making some recommendations and changes. But this use list is for lots 1 and 2, which is having the underlying land use of commercial. So you'll see there's quite a few options there. And the Planning Commission spent a lot of time on it, but they wanted to make sure that there were not uses that had any outdoor storage, basically. At the bottom of this second list, this continues the commercial, and then you get down to AP office uses for lots 3, 4, and 5, and it's very short, and it's similar to what John Willis just showed on the other project. Administrative, banking, financial, general research, medical, biological laboratories, mortuary, and real estate offices. So here's the rough parcel configuration, again in this area, and it shows on lots 1 and 2, and then this would be lot 3, the Southwest Spine building, and this is conceptual, what would have to come back in the future for you to see on lot 4, and over here 5 is just vacant property. These are renderings for the proposed building, Southwest Spine and Pain Center on lot 3, southwest view, and a northwest view, moving around the building. On the table in front of you is a color and materials board, and also in your packet this shows they want to use some sandstone to complement the area, some metal panels, and then this is metal, but it has the appearance of wood, and those are used at several locations. This is what's on the table before you, the materials board and colors. I received this after Planning Commission. We talked about the height at Planning Commission, and we didn't have an exact height. They thought it was at 35 or around there. In reality, what you're seeing is the bulk of the building, as I follow this arrow, is 37 feet, and then you have an area that goes up, kind of a parapet, and covers some of the equipment that's on a roof that goes up to 40. So
Air handlers and stuff.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's really not unusual for the height of buildings that you've been used to seeing. And if you think about it, most of the building here is 37, but you get down and you actually have some lower areas, and I'll show that. I think it's about 17. I was referencing this canopy, trying to use that as a line of sight. So there's a lot of articulation, a lot of relief, a lot of breakup. It's not all 40 foot, just a portion of it. This shows a conceptual layout that you'd be looking at. These are lots 1 and 2 for commercial. Nothing is proposed tonight, just again roughly. What is proposed is the building and layout here for Southwest Spine. This on lot 4 is conceptual, and lot 5 is just vacant. And I tried to enlarge it where you could see a little bit better here, lots 1, 2, 3, and 4. Lot 5 is just vacant. They'd have to come back to you in the future. And they're asking for the zone change PDC and the uses, so anything that they come back would have to fall under that category. This shows lots 1, 2, and 3, just a little close-up. And you can see the relationship to the LDS building that's out there. And lastly, I received this today, and I copied the city recorder, and you have digital copy. It wasn't in your packet. This is the landscape plan that they submitted, and it just shows a little bit more detail than the conceptual. Although, as with everything, staff would look at the site plan review during the civil engineering packet and look closer. And they're showing trees and bushes here, and we'd have to make sure that they did the right percentage and the right heights and the right types and species. So that basically concludes staff's comments about the project. Again, it's A20 to PDC, and in particular, they're interested in having the use list reviewed and looked at, and the building elevation for that one building.
Any questions for Ray? Ed?
Ray, we can expect to see monument-type signage out on the front of that?
I don't know. That signage wasn't talked with this project. At this time, they're not requesting anything for signage. They'd have to come back,
Have to
and
come
any
back.
permits would be under, at this time, any permits would be whatever is allowed under the sign ordinance.
Okay.
There's no master sign plan requested.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just wondered if it's a possibility in the future, and I don't know if you need to even address it, and maybe it makes no difference, but I would like to see some access from the southwest spine building through lot 1 and 2. The reason being is that it's going to be a little easier to get in and out of there on that 3000 East than I think it is the other way, so close to that light. I don't know, maybe not.
They show access through here, but maybe the applicant can address that a little bit better.
Okay.
This is the.
Well, I can tell you that the
southwest
city staff will require that access when 1 and 2 are built.
Okay.
Because we are not in favor of having somebody have to go out to the street and around. And we've required that over on River Road. We've required that on
Good.
other commercial projects where they're interconnected for commercial and office uses. Sometimes the applicants don't like it, but I think it's prudent, especially when a busy road like
Yeah.
Mall Drive and 3000 East.
Thank you.
Worked really well.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you, Ray. All right, I will open the public hearing for anyone who's come to offer input or ask questions on this. 3B on our agenda. Oh, sorry. First, applicant, anything the applicant would like to say?
Happy to wait till after as well, but just a couple of things just generally as regarding the cross-access, and thanks for your time again and consideration. We hope that these are complementary types of uses. Oh, Graham Larson with SLR. We hope that these are complementary uses and a good buffer for this residential area here, and then to the commercial across the street, and that those will benefit and help each other. So cross-access, yeah, we did anticipate that here on this roadway. This road currently comes to here, but that it's anticipated that this will be built and there will be cross-access into that area. This is right in, right out as well, so there wouldn't be left turns and then looping back into that area. I think we've got the architect here for questions on the southwest spine and pane. So they're happy to answer any questions, technical questions on how that architecture of that building looks and how the layout works as well. So thanks.
Thank you. Is SLR maintaining ownership of these parcels and buildings? No. Okay, just curious. Okay, now public hearing is open. If you'd come forward and just again state your name for the record.
Don Williams. I live at 1011 West Cimarron, which is how do I move that? There we go. If I could go to the original map, how do I move that?
Well, staff will come help you.
Okay. With the full plan. Oh, okay. There we go. All right. Okay. All right, good. Let's get to the buildings here. Yeah.
Don, you can't touch a screen, it goes by itself.
Oh, does it?
Now you're not where you were.
Oh. All right. Just get to the main. There we go. Oop. Yep. Well, basically, let's see. I live right here. See, right dead center right there. The main concern that I have, we've watched this project come before us for about a year now. We had a really good meeting with the land reserve and all the neighborhood, as well as the doctors that were putting in that spine clinic. And our main concern was a buffer zone. Originally, we didn't have a buffer zone, and you can tell from the spine clinic, let's see, right here, they've put in a really good buffer zone, and that's suitable to us. According to, just like the last building that you guys were working on, we need something with trees, something that blocks that out. And the amount of parking, I called up, right after I received the notice, I called up Rosenberg to ask about the amount of parking, and he says there's a little bit of overkill with that parking. We've got a need of 154, and you have 198. And so the main concern that I have is right on this back side right here. This is my fence line. I'm one of only 2 people that have actually put a block fence in. I've been there for 17 years. I was the only house there for a long time. And I knew that there was going to be growth. I'm all for this growth. I'm okay, just like the other group is okay with having this PD commercial. I don't mind having doctor's offices. I'd rather have that than a 2-story house right behind, just like what you're dealing with. And I'm okay with that. However, having parking right behind me has me a little bit worried, mainly because of the lighting, because I'm going to have lighting right behind me, not away from me with a buffer zone. I brought to you guys, you guys are, according to what I understand, this project is going to have some good lighting and what you guys are dealing with, but I brought some stuff here for you guys just to look at. If you can look at that right there.
If you want to give that to Christina.
You just pass it along. There's all kinds of lighting out there, but even if it was low impact, I'm going to have impact right behind my backyard, just because of those parking spots. So my main concern is if there's a way to continue that buffer zone from that one point all the way across and knock those parking stalls out of there, I'd probably be totally fine with that.
Gary?
Okay, I think we just need to make sure that we're all on the same page here. What you're considering tonight, as I understand, is the uses in the PD commercial zone and the building for the spine clinic, which is the next one over,
Right.
which shows the 30 feet. So when this building comes in, then they will have to come in the exact same way as what's being discussed tonight and present their plan to you and the neighbors for their side of the building.
Right.
And if they're already starting with that bigger, they're only required 10 feet, as I understand, and the spine clinic's, I think, putting 30 or 25 in, so.
Which I think is exactly what we were talking about when we had our.
So I
our
guess what I'm saying is that
neighborhood
the
meeting.
council then, at that time, could consider extending the 25 feet to match up with what's there behind
Right.
when you have the next public hearing on their building. But because we don't know what they're really going to show at this point in time, because they're not being bound by the pictures that were being shown here for the other project. It's just the uses and the PD zone, as I
Correct.
understand.
I was bringing this to your attention now because I just not, where this is being approved currently, this is what our wish in the future to be based off of that. Now, you're talking about this road coming right through here. Let me give you a concern right here. On this side of the road, you have a majority of the kids going to the elementary hit that side of the road. So they cross at the light and go on that side of the road because the majority of them live on that side of Sandia. You probably have 60 to 110 kids crossing this way all the time. And they'll be, if you have them come across here with a guard, that's fine. But having them on that one street right there in the middle, you're going to have a guard there too. That's a problem, especially if that becomes a main access. Now, I like having that as access. I'm just worried that you've got a whole additional bunch of kids going right across that way, right through there. And we also nightly have a bunch of kids hitting Dairy Queen at Lynn's, coming right straight through there too. So, but I thought I'd throw that out to you too. So in the future, with that other piece, that's our concern, is just keep it even as the spine clinic people helped talk to us about. They did a great job. That's exactly what we were looking at. And that's my concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments on this item? 3B? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for any other questions. Any other comments from the applicant? No other comments, okay. Questions, council? Okay.
Graham Larson again with SLR. One thing I had noticed on, so do I swipe then to go back? We're considering uses tonight, and when I was looking at this, talking with Jason, and he said I can throw him under the bus. But I think on this, the administrative and professional offices, maybe it's a given because of the category here, but we've got, you know, a general medical type of use going in with Southwest Spine and Pain. I'm not sure that that is contemplated in these specific uses, nor is, you know, general type of office, administrative type professional offices. So though that's a given in the category, maybe that's something we want to amend on the specific uses.
Sean or John, would you agree with that? Just to be crystal clear.
Right, we'd want to put it in the specific uses
Okay.
there.
So medical office, that'd be something we'd want to do if you're so inclined to make a motion to approve this today, council.
Could we also include general professional office in that as well?
General professional office as
I
well?
would guess if you had general professional offices, that would cover all of it, wouldn't it? Even medical offices.
Right, I would think so too, but since we've been specific on medical and biological laboratories, let's say medical and professional offices, and I think that covers
Okay.
everything.
Medical and professional. Okay, council, any other discussion? Again, we didn't specifically say anything, and Sean, you weren't here in the room with the previous thing, but in terms of lighting, are we able to make reference to the changes the pending ordinance, I guess you'd say, on our lighting changes we plan to make?
Well, you could, because this is a PD, you could make that a stipulation, although they could agree to that right now, to
Mhm.
those lighting standards. We just don't have those in place, and we don't have a pending ordinance in
True.
place right now.
So,
Mayor?
yes, sir.
The Planning Commission has a recommended conditions. Item 11 is lighting applicants shall submit a photometric plan with a site plan review set.
Okay.
And we would ask to see type of lighting, the type of coverage, the foot candles.
But a plan would not address what you're
Right.
talking about.
What we're trying to do, we're planning to modify our lighting for commercial and in some cases even residential for churches ordinance to just try to make it a little more friendly. Not, like I said earlier, not really, crazy night sky ordinance, but maybe a little tighter than what we have. So I think what we could do, if the council's so inclined, is just not ask, but require that you be, when you submit that it be in compliance, and you can work with staff to make sure that it is with what we do, because we intend to have this passed soon, like I would say within the next month.
It would scare me a little that they're obligating themselves to something they don't know yet.
That's the beauty of a planned development zone.
I know, but they may get this all approved, and then we come through and say you got to put candles out there, and then wipe out the whole thing.
But I think, though, that if you look at it in the timing of this, they've got a large parcel of property there that ought to be all tied together as far as the lighting. So I would think that they would be happy to work with us, and we can tell them pretty much what those are. And if they're not too far afield, then I think that they would probably be able to go along with that. But because I don't think it's going to be too onerous as far as what they're currently doing right now for this particular project. But where there's neighbors there on the north, then we ought to do our best to make sure the lighting stays on the site. So
Right.
I don't think that'll be a problem. It'd be very difficult to impose those without their reasonable approval. I suggest you go ahead and suggest that we'd like them to work with us, and if they can't, then we'll just put a hold on it until we can get it worked out.
We want these commercial brokers and commercial developers to see this ordinance anyways before we get it all the way, done, so they know. But it's going to be, the basic concept is, hey, we're not trying to light up the neighbor's yard, we're trying to light up the specific property. So, you know, your down-facing lights, your
Some
shielding,
shields
some
on.
shielding. A prime example of what we don't want, you can just drive down by my business on 700 and you'll get an idea at night. I don't need parking lot lights anymore because of my
your
neighbors.
Yeah.
So that's what we don't want, and so we're trying to get a grasp on that, and you all will get to see that, and we'll ask people like, you know, Andrew and Travis's group and others to be able to give some input when they see that. So it's not going to be, like the mayor says, it's not going to be some,
Draconian.
yeah.
I think a good example of what we'd like to see is the new elementary school, and they did that on their own, just downtown Graham, and you could
Legacy,
go
Yeah.
over to that and take a look at that school. And
right
they've-
next to the Sun Bowl
done a
on
very good
First
job.
South, just east of Second East.
They've got the smaller, lower lighting.
Yeah.
So know that's coming, all of you.
Yes, sir. Well, we've closed that, but I'll allow it if you can be brief. Okay. Just state your name for the record, if you would.
Yes, sir. My name's Jeff Pinniger from VCB Architecture, and I couldn't agree more with you on the lighting. We've done a lot of projects in very urban areas where we've used cutoff lights and shields, and I think it's an excellent idea. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds like we're on the right track, Council. We plan to have a meeting, a joint meeting with the Planning Commission to go over these proposed changes to our lighting ordinance, and we hope to do that soon. So, Council, you ready for a motion?
I'll take a stab at this, yeah. Okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the zone change from A1 to PDC on approximately, how many acres? 19.4 acres. And approve the conceptual site plan. Do I have to include professional and medical offices?
Yes.
Yes.
What
As
am I missing?
uses.
As uses. Anything else?
Height.
Height,
Oh, we need
with
to.
improved height,
Yeah,
recommended improved
and it
height.
is
42.
42 feet.
And that's an A20, is that correct, zone currently, just for the
Yeah,
record?
from A20 to PDC.
And encourage the applicant to work with the staff regarding the lighting?
Very strong encouragement.
Okay.
I would make a second after a question or.
Okay, we have a motion by Jimmy and a second by Joe. Questions?
The question is, I think you said to make it all PDC, but part of it's going to be professional office. Does that still leave it in PDC?
Yes, the
Okay.
uses in the PDC will be professional and medical offices.
Thank you.
Among others.
And lots
include-
1
to
and 2 are
include-
commercial, right?
to
PD
include.
commercial.
Yeah, commercial
Yes.
on 1 and 2.
The lots, if you look on the screen, lots 3, 4, and 5 is the administrative professional. The lots 1 and 2 were the
PD commercial.
commercial. It's all PDC zone, but you're
Correct.
specifying.
That's right.
That's what we wanted, so we didn't have it all
Yeah.
commercial.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so any other questions or comments on the motion? I think it was phrased accurately. Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor, starting with Joe this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Appreciate the comments, appreciate the applicants being here. And I think this is a good use. I really do. I compliment the developers, the applicants, because I think it is a good use in response to neighbors' concerns. So thank you.
And just my standard little comment, I appreciate people coming here during a public hearing rather than coming seeing us afterwards and complaining.
When it's too late.
When it's too late. So we appreciate your input in either direction, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor, the next item on the agenda is item 6, staff reports, item 6A, report from the Planning Commission meeting held on February 21st. And there are 5 public hearings to be advertised for March 16th, so I'd like to quickly read those in. First one is consider a general plan amendment to amend a general plan from high-density residential to commercial, approximately 6 acres, and this is approximately 600 South, 1000 East streets. Applicant is City of St. George. Item B, consider a zone change from R110 to C2 on .80 acres, property is generally located on northwest intersection of 600 South, 1000 East. The applicant is Mr. Larry Gardner. Item C, consider a zone change amendment to PDC Plan Development Commercial on 1 acre to accommodate development of a 2-story commercial building located at the intersection of Riverside Drive and 2200 East. This would be called Taylor Andrews Academy of Hair Design. Item D, consider a zone change from C2 to R2 on 0.2 acres at 82 West 700 South. The applicant is Mr. Mike Jorgensen. And finally, item E, consider a zone change to rezone from PDR Plan Development Residential to Plan Development Commercial on 2.16 acres to develop a gymnastics facility. The property is located on River Road, generally near the intersection of Brigham Road, and the applicant is Champion Gymnastics. Those are the 5 items requesting to be set for March 16th.
It's quite a few for one night. Are we okay? Any challenges with any of those that you expect?
Item C went very quickly. Item D went quickly. Item E, a few minutes, but was not controversial. And you're familiar with the first one. So.
If you're ready, Mayor, I
I'm
would
ready.
make a motion that we set the public hearings for items 1A through 1E for March 16th, 2017.
Second.
Motion by Joe with a second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor, the next item is a building conceptual site plan. They also have an associated conditional use permit. Staff would like to present those items together. It's also listed as 6B on the agenda. 6B and 2B is consider approval of a conditional use permit to construct 2 buildings that exceed 35 feet in height between 200 and 300 West and south of Tabernacle, as well as a building design conceptual site plan for a mixed-use project known as Joe Plaza. This project was before the council in 2014 and received approval of a building design and also for the conditional use permit for the height. In the C4 zone, a mixed-use project can be approved. However, it needs to be reviewed and approved by the city council. And so what the applicant is proposing is to amend that approval and also amend the conditional use permit for the height. So this is the location: Tabernacle, 200 West and 300 West. The courthouse is just north of this project. The zoning is C4, which is our commercial downtown zone. This is the previous approval that the city council reviewed and approved. As part of this approval, it was approved for 146 units. It was approximately 37 dwelling units an acre. It was 4 stories, and the height ranged from 50 to 54 feet. As part of this approval, the applicants requested and received approval for a reduction in the number of parking places from 2 per unit to 1.5 per unit. They also received approval for elimination of the guest parking, which is a same request that they're proposing with this application. So again, they had 3 buildings with part of their approval, and this is the layout and the elevations. Again, this is some of the elevations of the previous approval. And so this is what they're amending. In November, this was the original submittal that the Planning Commission reviewed. The Planning Commission heard this in November. They brought up several concerns with this design. They had concerns with the density, the parking lot located here along 300 West. They were also concerned with the proximity from the residential in the back. The item was tabled, and the applicant made several revisions to address the concerns that the Planning Commission had on this design. They're also concerned with some of this openness on the corridor. This is our mixed-use project in our downtown area, and so we do want to create these building edges and create these corridors, and so the applicant revised revised the proposal, and that's what's being heard tonight. And this is what the Planning Commission saw and also recommended approval on. So the revised item is 2 buildings. This is Tabernacle 200 West, 300 West. It has 2 buildings. The applicant originally, it was approximately 26 feet from the residential. They pushed it to 73 feet against the residential to the south. This proposal is 190 units. It varies in height from 2 stories to 5 stories. The ground floor is commercial with residential in some of the rear areas, which does meet code.
Just to clarify that, John, I think commercial is up on Tabernacle and 200.
That's right.
Just on the ends down on the south.
Correct. So there's an ordinance. The ordinance requires that the building that is along the public street is required to be commercial, and no more than 50% or less than 50% is required to be residential, and they do meet that code provision. The other design is they created this building B where this was a parking lot. Now the building fronts along 300 West and has a commercial storefront along 300 West. So this is the site plan that the applicant is proposing. Part of this approval is the density. They're requesting 190 units, which is approximately 49 units an acre. So that's an increase from the previous approval. Parking, they're proposing 361 parking stalls. They're requesting 285 for the residential, so that's 1.5 per unit opposed to the 2 per unit. They're also requesting, again, the elimination of the guest parking. The required with no reduction would be 519 parking stalls, and they're requesting 361, which is a reduction of 138 parking stalls. They are parking the commercial 1 to 200 per square feet. So there's 2 provisions that allow for the reduction. The first is for projects with 50 dwelling units or more. Reduction is required to 1.5 spaces per unit where it can be shown. The 2 spaces per unit is an excessive amount of parking, so they're requesting that reduction. The second is the guest parking, which allows the city council to reduce or eliminate the guest parking. And so in this project, they require 63 guest parking, and they're asking to eliminate that in guest parking. So as far as landscaping, they meet the landscaping ordinance. They meet the ratio from commercial to residential. This is the elevation of the buildings. A part of this is the conditional use permit for the height of the building. Anything over 35 feet is required to receive that. This is the elevation. This is the elevation of the larger building. It has a maximum height of 74 feet, but the majority of the building is 62 feet. And so with the articulation, the vertical articulation and some of the architecture features, it moves it up to the 74. However, the majority of the building is 62 feet. The other building, Building B, which is located along 300 West, has a maximum height of 50 feet. A majority of the building is 42 feet. They have 2-story and 3-story and 4-story on this Building B. This is kind of the 3D perspective. A couple items to point out. The back of this building that's adjacent to the residential, the applicant reduced it to 4 stories to help mitigate some of that height. But here's the perspective drawings: Tabernacle, 200 West, and 300 West.
John, can you just, since you're there, can you tell us approximately how the height along Tabernacle compares to the courthouse across the street?
Yes, we have a slide that gives a nice perspective and a cross section. So when I come up with that slide, we'll discuss.
John, I have a question then, quick while you're out there. The vision in the A and B building there in the center,
Yes,
is that looks like it might be a basketball court or something like that?
it is. It's a sports court. It's a ground level sports court. No, not what they're proposing here, so this will be what is being considered.
John, is there a swimming pool?
They are showing a swimming pool in the renderings, yes, so you would be reviewing a swimming pool. This is a perspective. This is looking down Tabernacle, looking west. From the previous approval from Planning Commission, there's a lot more articulation, both vertical and horizontal. The planes vary quite a bit. They used a lot of different materials. And I do have a materials board, and after the presentation, I'll hold up the materials board. But a lot of varying materials. So this is looking west. This is the existing residential. This is the trees and parking lot, and this is the building here. So this is a cross section. This is the residential, Joel Plaza, and the courthouse. So the courthouse is approximately 84 feet from grade, but there's about a 7-foot elevation change. You walk up the stairs, so from the sidewalk, you're about 91 feet from the sidewalk. And there's also a slight grade change as you move south. And so this cross section kind of gives you an idea of the visual of what it would compare to the courthouse. And so this is zoomed in on this triangle. They're approximately 79 feet from the residential. Couple more perspective drawings. This is 300 West, and so this is the little commercial outbuilding. You can see it goes from 2-story, and then it moves up to 3-story and 4-story. This is looking north. This is looking north from 100 south. So this is the existing residential, and this is the project behind. This is just some street views of the project. The applicant has a flyby. Before I show the flyby, the conditional use permit. It is a conditional use permit, so there are those findings, A through K, that are found in your packet. Part of that is the table that shows all the different heights of the area. Main Street Plaza is 71 feet. We have the courthouse that we discussed. And so before we move on to the flyby, the conditional use permit, and just like the other conditional use permits, there will be those findings, A through K, that'll need to be reviewed and approved by City Council if you choose.
Yeah, it's a silent movie. Don't anybody go to sleep.
So that concludes staff's presentation. This is for both requests, the BDSCP and also the conditional use permit. And so we will need 2 motions for each of those applications.
Questions for John?
I got a couple, John. If you can find that triangle that was showing there, right there. I'm gonna have you show me another slide in a minute, but personally, I'd like to see us put an extended wall between the houses and that parking lot. I don't know what the rules are and regulations, but go back to the one that shows the physical picture from 100 South. Not the rendering, the actual one.
This one?
No, it's an actual picture from 100
Okay.
South. You're getting closer. It's the one that shows the trees and then it shows the building behind it.
Oh, it does show the building behind, okay.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
I'm sorry, that part's conceptual. Okay, so to be brutally frank, that is fairly misleading because they're taken across the other side of 100 South. If you were to take that picture from the back door of any of those houses, that would be much more imposing. Not that that's going to resolve anything, but I don't want us to be led astray by that picture because that's a long ways from where those backyards are. But I'd like to see a taller fence.
Taller wall.
John, can you clarify also on the point Joe's making, the elevation from the south of that development and those neighbors residential, is there about a 1 foot drop there too? So if you had a 6 foot wall, but it actually drops another foot in the elevation.
Yeah, there's if you look at the other picture, you can see that there's an elevation change, and I'm not sure if the applicant plans on putting any kind of retainage wall to help level out the site, but if they were to put up a retaining wall, that could create a taller wall.
It'd be nice to have a 3 foot retaining wall with a 6 foot block wall on top of it.
I don't know whether or not the developers look that close to the site to do the civil plans, but that could be something they could look at to see if they could make up some of that grade change.
It's huge.
Yep.
I have a question if you're through, Joe.
Yeah.
John, you touched a little bit on parking. As part of this conceptual design on the street, could we ask for example, the developer to include striping for diagonal parking on the streets in front of their...
They are showing diagonal parking.
And they would stripe it?
Well, I don't know whether or not we've addressed whether they'll stripe it or not, but that's something that the council could discuss on whether the applicant could stripe it or not.
Thank you.
Betty?
Parking isn't an issue to me.
It is?
It's not.
Oh, it is not.
There's lots of parking around there.
So visitor parking would be on the street, is that correct? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, visitor parking would be on the street, basically. And a lot of these units, about half of them, and the applicant can correct me, but I believe half of them are one bedroom and studios, and the other half are 2 bedroom. And so based on that makeup, the applicant, he can speak on this better than myself, but he believes that the parking that's being provided is adequate.
Is there any public parking, or is that on the street as well for the retail?
They are providing retail parking at 1 to 250, and so they are providing all of the parking that are in the numbers are all off-street parking. None of the parking around the exterior on-street parking were counted as part of that calculation.
I think also the commercial will probably, in theory, close at 6 o'clock when the residents start coming back also. Not
Nope.
necessarily, but
Yeah, I
in
hope
theory.
not. Hope there's a restaurant in there.
There won't be enough parking for a restaurant.
Okay, then that's a
Is
problem.
that true, John?
That is true. Based on the parking they're provided, they don't meet the parking code for restaurants.
Let's,
Until
blow-
we change it.
Yeah, we
Look
need to
at the
blow that one-
modifications in the C4 zone that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
blow that one up. Are all of the existing homes gone then on the whole block? Are they-
I think they're
Except for south.
existing now, right? And some of these are existing.
Just curious.
We did look at other parking ordinances in other communities, and we looked at 5 of those that had actual downtown mixed use. And in comparing what they require for the residential and compared to what we require, 3 of them were in line with what we require with all of our reductions, and the other 2 were actually had less of a requirement. And so we did look at other communities, and in those instances, we were either at the same level or less than those other communities.
So we could expect to get more parking spaces with diagonal parking.
Yeah, yep.
At least a few more.
You could get a fair amount, yeah.
Maybe we'll get enough for a restaurant, huh?
We need to.
I think as
Yeah.
the city manager alluded to, we're working on an ordinance. And this would be included in what we looked at.
Other comments or questions? We can let the applicant speak for a minute. This isn't a public hearing, but we'll let the applicant speak for a minute, and then we'll see where we go from there. Mr. Wilkinson.
Yep, my name is Randy Wilkinson. I'm one of the managing directors of Dixieson Ventures, who is an applicant. We do have involved in this project 8 or 9 other partners involved with it to try to be able to make it work and so forth. And I might just say that it's not our intent to be job security for you, to where we come back so often. But we're grateful for your patience, and we are certainly grateful for your help and for your input. I would indicate that we have tried diligently to, as we received suggestions and input and from the Planning Commission, from staff and so forth, to try to do our best to try to meet requirements that they were discussing and talking about that we felt would be good. And in doing that in context with trying to make sure that this project still would be viable and feasible, and that you can all appreciate that one of the reasons we do this is for an anticipated and hoped return on an investment. And I know that's not something that necessarily you have to be concerned about, but we have to be concerned about it. Here's a little couplet that you've heard way too many times, but I'll offer it anyway. One ship goes east and another west by the self-same winds that blow. 'Tis the set of the sail and not the gale that determines the way they go. We're just trying to work hard to make sure we got the sail set right. So.
Sounds a little bit like Mayor MacArthur would say something like that. Yeah. We could sing, yeah, we could. Maybe not today, Jimmy. All right. Jimmy's got a cold, so no singing. Any questions for the applicant or anything else, Randy, you'd like to say? Any questions? Height, color, parking? We've been asking them all.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to say thanks to the applicant. I don't know which way the vote's going to go, but it's been a long process, and I know that they've been asked to do a lot of things. I mean, when they first mentioned the August of 14, so we're 2.5 years trying to figure out this project, and I know that the neighbors, the that adjoin it have concerns. I know that the staff had concerns originally about the design and how you put it all together with the C4, because this, if you permit it tonight, along with City View, which you've permitted or you've approved the concept downtown, this is the first project like this in the city, and it's in the downtown, and so it's been a difficult one to make it work from the applicants. But if you look at the design, it comes back right to what we had talked about 2 years ago with regard to the idea of having a mixed-use commercial project in our downtown. And in order to do that, you have to have the density. In order to do that, you have to have the height, the cost of land. Otherwise, what do you do with the property? You're certainly not going to be able to develop it as residential. It just won't make it work with the densities that are there on busy Tabernacle Street. And so with their coming back with the distance, I know it may not appease the residents, but coming back with having that 75 plus or minus foot buffer between the residents and what they've done to accommodate that, as well as the design. I think the design is right along with the new urbanist type of a design that we've talked about with the setbacks downtown. So they've done, in my opinion, whatever we've basically asked them to do in order to make this project go forward. And I'd like to compliment them and the architect that's sitting in the back, that I think the design and all that is it's a great project, and I think it'll be a anchor to our downtown. So
I like the colors a lot too, actually. I think it does look very nice. And I like the breaking up of the mass. So I agree. Thank you, Gary.
Mayor, I'd like to follow up a little bit on Joe's concerns about a wall, the height of that south wall where those residents run. I wondered, Randy, how you feel if there is a lowering in elevation there to have that south wall for those neighbors, residents, if they're asking for 8 to 10 foot, even maybe a foot. How would you feel about that?
This is Jared Nielsen from Highmark Construction.
So we've been heavily involved in the site as far as elevations and whatnot. On the east side of it would be a little bit easier. On the west side, it's going to be a lot more difficult because we are all but to current grade there. On the east side, we have a little more to work with. But
Gary, I think we're more concerned about the south side.
South, where the residents.
Yeah. But is he saying that?
Right.
I'm saying the east end and the west end of
the south side.
Yeah. Right.
So along that parking.
So it would pose a challenge.
To maintain that 6 foot height that you guys require on one side of the fence,
Right.
yes, it would.
Thank you.
All the council knows that I live down in that area. I also have some very good friends who live on 100 South, who have homes there. And this has been a tough thing for me, looking at both of those sides. I think that the developer has gone out of their way to make that a little more user-friendly for those people on 100 South. Personally, I think it will vastly improve that area of town that I selfishly live in. So I still have those mixed emotions about it, but I think we've tried to come up with some ideas that might work, might be acceptable for everybody.
Well, I work in part of town, and I'm excited about it. I walk around that block often, and it's only great, just only positive, and I think the courthouse complements and the school district, I just think it's appropriate. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I would rather look at people in a building than a wall, but that's just me. I don't like walls. I just, anyway, so I wouldn't, and I'm not worried about the parking either. I think there's parking all around that place. I can find it.
In relation to the wall, though, I think the theory is they don't want people in the building looking into their backyard.
right? But you'd have to go real high, very, very high. And I don't know, just wave, just wave. Yeah.
My head's congested today, so congestion is on my mind. And I'm concerned about a couple of things. So for one, what is our parking requirement over here in our city center project?
City View. Mhm.
City View. Sorry, I'm not trying to push you guys out. I just want to know.
Sorry. Same requirement, and they did receive the reduction from the city council on city.
And our unit number there?
They're 110, and then they have a 60-unit hotel, but that's calculated differently. So they were 110 units.
Okay.
110 units.
I just don't want to see us create a parking nightmare. You know, and I look at it and I say, we want, this is cool because we want something like this to work. I'm just a little bit afraid that I'm now gotten so big. I mean, I see that picture and the visual, to me, I know this just may be me, but I see the visual when we see the side, and I'm standing on the road and I'm looking at that and I look at a big apartment building and I'm getting concerned about maybe we've gone, in our interest to try to keep the critical mass that we need to make a project like this work, that we've gone too big. And I just don't know what your thoughts are on that.
So our thoughts on the bigger the project with that reduction actually helps versus having the smaller, because we get better averages as far as traffic flowing, people leaving and going. The other thing with this design, you know, like John mentioned, 50% of these units are one-bedroom units or studios, and then we have the rest as two-bedroom units, and so we do not have any three-bedroom or larger units. This type of style of product, we've done a number of these, and we found that this style or this size of unit and unit mix works better. And it does help keep the amount of parking down in these areas. We've got a number of projects. We've got one in Ogden right now that's 1.5. We've got one in Layton that is 1.68. The one in Layton's been operating for about 2.5, 3 years. We have not had any problems with it. And so we feel like with the unit mix and whatnot, and both of those only have about 2,000 feet of commercial space, where this has a lot more of the commercial space with those extra parking stalls there that we have the potential offset at nighttime and whatnot, which is going to help also.
So with the one bedroom unit, then typically you're not going to get more than two people in there, and more than likely have one car. So are you going to have reserved parking for the residents, or how does that going to work? Is there?
Yes, all parking will be assigned. Okay. Typically what we'll do is we'll when we lease the unit, they will receive one stall, and then they will have to pay for the second stall. So that also helps maintain that.
Gotcha. So if you have a second space, you're going to have to pay for that.
Yes.
How about the public space for the retail parking spaces?
So that will be left open, and that's kind of where we're feeling like that's going to be some of the offset for the guest parking and whatnot. So that's going to be on the west end of that building on Tabernacle there, is where we're going to leave that unassigned.
Gary?
Just a little further on the parking end of it, you know, we did approve Greyhawk, and I think another project over on the east side of town with the exact same parking requirements as what we're talking about tonight. So I think that what we've discovered is that, given the new people that are renting and that, the majority of them, our parking ordinance may be a little over-ambitious as far as what other places have found through their growth and with their apartment. Not to say we want to go too far off the kilter, but we are kind of moving towards that 1 to 1.5 to 1.6 area for all our apartments now.
This is part of the, I think you're thinking of millennials and so forth. This is part of, you know, sort of growing up a little bit. It's part of Vision Dixie in terms of the, you know, trying to have a little bit more density, especially in the central part of town. It's part of Live, Work, Play these things concepts we've been talking about and trying to get to for some time. And, having a vital downtown, it feels a little uncomfortable sometimes, like you're saying, Jimmy, in terms of height and mass. I do think the courthouse helps us a lot, right across the street. I think City View will help us. I think it's gonna feel more normal, more natural, I guess, than we think once, if approved, once it's all built and starts to come together. And I think it is what a lot of people are looking for more. Bicycle friendly, downtown walkability, all those things, the retail close underneath. Anyway, but it's all new, It's what we've been asking for, wanting, and here it is before us now. But anyway, Ed?
Mayor, I think most of the concerns we all expressed, mine have been met, and if you're ready for a motion, I'd be glad to make
I'm ready, yeah.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit to construct the two buildings that exceed 35 feet in height between 200 and 300 west and south of Tabernacle, as well as the building's designed conceptual site plan for the mixed-use project known as Jewel Plaza.
And the conditional use permit.
And
It's got to be second, two motions. Yeah, so we have a motion by Ed and a second by Betty to approve the building design conceptual site plan as has been presented. And any comments or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, let's see. This does not need to be a roll call vote, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries. All right, do we have a motion for the second piece of this, which is the conditional use permit to construct the two separate buildings which will exceed 35 feet in height? Building A would be 4 and 5 stories with a maximum height of approximately 74 feet. Building B would be 2, 3, and 4 stories with a maximum height of approximately 50 feet. Is that right? Yes. The project is called Jewel Plaza. Could I have a motion? Are we ready for a motion to that effect to approve the conditional use permit for the height of these two buildings?
Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the height request that's been made on both of these projects.
Second.
Motion by Ed with a second by Betty. Discussion on this motion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Got to be consistent, huh, Jimmy?
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
so.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilkinson. Thank
Good
you,
luck.
all that have been involved. Look forward to working with you. So does Jimmy, too, I know.
Yeah. Just because we keep doing it, I don't know that I just don't want to create a situation like I was in today when I didn't want to leave the building I was at because I knew I was going to lose my parking space and never going to find another one.
That's like my office.
Yeah. You know where I was.
Yes, I
The
do.
hospital.
Uh-huh.
Now there's construction going on there, but I'm just getting a little concerned. I know we're trying to grow up and we're trying to do the right thing, but I'm getting a little nervous as we move forward.
It's good to be careful.
Maybe we ought to make sure the hospital gets working on that parking lot across from the medical
Yeah.
center.
Of course, I've been accused of never growing up anyway, so maybe that's my problem.
Not so bad, Jimmy. Not so bad. Yeah. Let's go ahead. Going to final plats, is that what we're doing?
Okay. Item 4A from the Planning Commission report is the request is to consider approval of a 12-lot residential subdivision final plat called the Arbors Phase 1. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located at the northeast corner at the intersection of Little Valley Road and Horseman Park Drive. Zone is R112. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and it meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. Right here is Little Valley Road, and then right here is Horseman Park where it ends now, and then we'll have the extension of it through here. So here is Little Valley Ranchos and the Mulberry Estates right here, so it's these 12 lots right there.
Questions on this final plat, council? Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve a 12-lot residential final subdivision plat for the Arbors Phase 1.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 4B from the Planning Commission report is to consider approval of a 9-lot residential subdivision final plat called the Arbors Phase 3. Representative is Development Solutions. Property is located north of the Arbors Phase 1 on the east side of Little Valley Road. Zone is R112. Again, all aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and it meets the conditions of preliminary plat. Here is Phase 1 that was just approved, and so it's just north of Phase 1, right there adjacent to Little Valley Road.
Any questions on this? Same part of town.
Move to approve a 9-lot residential final subdivision plat for the Arbors Phase 3.
Second.
Motion by Betty with a second by Joe. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, item 4C from the Planning Commission report is a request to consider approval of a 12-lot residential subdivision final plat called Riverside Cliffs Subdivision Phase 4. Representative is Rosenberg Associates. Property is located at Riverbend Drive in 1930 East. Zone is R18. All aspects of this final plat were reviewed by staff and it meets the conditions of the preliminary plat. So if you look right here, here's Riverside Drive. This is where it turns north. It's that subdivision here. Virgin River's here. This is the last phase of this subdivision. The gray hatched area again is the setback from the ridge line where no structures would be allowed. They did apply for, because this was in the hillside, they did apply for the reduction in the front yard setback of 5 feet, and it did meet the 15% slope across the lot. So they will have a 20-foot, they've requested that 20-foot setback instead.
Wes, where's the, at one time there was a retaining wall feature that they were going to put in some of those places between the rock outcroppings.
Yes.
How do we verify that that gets done?
We're going to send you out there, Joe.
That's uphill. I'd never make it.
The wall, that's a very good question, and I haven't thought about that, but the wall will require
Engineering?
engineering, and so it'll require a building permit. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, because we did approve it as long as they built something between those
Yeah, there was a
rock
couple of these
outcroppings.
lots where it needed that
Yeah,
because of
yeah.
what had taken place.
Yeah.
Right.
So does that get taken care of on each individual lot as they come and get a building permit for it?
That's what we were thinking. That's a good question, and maybe we should ask the developer to build it now as part of this.
Yeah, or at least make sure it gets done somewhere along the line.
Okay, I'll bring that up with him and
Thank you.
make sure that we get that. Maybe we'll just have him bond for it to make sure it does get done as part of the final plat.
Good idea.
I would like to see something happen there
Okay.
because
I guess that would be my recommendation is if he doesn't want to build it now, we'll have him bond for it, and then when it's all built, we can release the bond or hire somebody if he doesn't get it done and have them go do it.
thank you.
Can we make that a condition of approval for the final plat?
Yeah.
Mayor, you're ready, I'll make a motion that we approve the Riverside Cliffs subdivision Phase 4 as articulated with the conditions and stipulations on the wall.
Second.
Motion by Ed with the second by Joe. Any questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And then item 5 did get pushed to the next meeting as it's an easement vacation and didn't get noticed correctly, so we just pushed it 2 weeks. So
Okay. Thank you, Wes.
Are you done?
yeah.
Planning Commission?
All right, item C. This is for the sale of some property right north of the building here, up past the offices, going up the hill to the top of Snow Canyon, Red Hills Parkway. So I don't know if you've got a map or you got something there you're going to show them that?
I think there's an attachment, I'm sorry. There's an attachment in your packet of an aerial shot of the property that the property owner currently owns, but the hash pieces is what he is requesting to purchase from the city as surplus property.
This is the property, if you know the old pond that, Cox Pond or Brooks Pond. Okay, this is the house that's right up above there. The fronts, actually fronts on 200 East as you go up, only one that really fronts on 200 East, going up the top of the hill there. They've done a nice job in going in and fixing it up and putting a wall around it, and they would like to add a little extra slope areas that are currently sloped to their, so that they can clean it up and fix it up.
So if you remember, in December, they came for a 1,224 square foot piece that they wanted on the west side of their lot. Now they're looking at trying to acquire the 9,100 square feet on the north, east, and the west, and about 90% of that, if not more, is all just like a hill. You know, so they're not going to develop it. They basically want to clean it up and landscape it.
Really no man's land for us.
Correct.
It is. It's kind of their MO. They seem to be wanting to clean up and take care of the property.
It's
around.
impressive. They've done a good job on their property.
I think the actual wall may be on our property already.
Yeah, about that. That's why we're trying to fix it
probably one of the
tonight.
reasons why they're trying to fix it.
Okay.
Correct.
If you look on Skyline Drive, that wall is closer to the road than what the property line is.
Right off
so.
the sidewalk.
Any questions, council, on this?
Now, I move that we sell approximately 9,187 square feet of surplus city property.
Would that be at $1.50
That's what
What we
the
charged them
other
last
piece was.
time.
Was $1.50.
For $1.50
per square
per
foot?
square foot.
Yes.
Second.
Motion by Betty, second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Well,
Thank you.
Matt's here, we can maybe take the addendum, Mayor.
Yeah.
The first item, 6F on the addendum, is to, under the state law, if we're going to sell a significant parcel of property, it needs to have a public hearing set, take public comment. And so we're suggesting that, based on the length of time it takes to advertise, that we put on the agenda for comment on the sale of the property that we were talking about for the affordable housing project over by Greyhawk.
Correct.
And if you put a value on it, appraised value on it, it would exceed the amounts that would be required for notice by the state.
Correct.
So let's see, we're setting it for,
We're setting for a public.
yeah, which
Hearing.
date?
Public comments.
At least 14 days.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a public hearing, it just has to be public comment
Mm-hmm.
on whether you should sell or not sell. So it's probably the
2
first
weeks.
meeting. Is it 14 days? We got to get it in?
According to legal.
So then it'd probably be your first meeting in April, right?
Just to be safe.
14 days. If you get it in tomorrow, that's
We-
13
We've
days.
already got 5 of them on the 16th of March.
But this is, it's not really.
It's not a public
same.
hearing, but it's
Okay.
just, I don't think you can get it on by then, unless you get it in tomorrow. Notice it.
Tomorrow.
Do you have to
Well,
notice in the
no.
paper?
I'm not sure.
I don't think that, is the time an issue?
No.
So I think just do it on first meeting in April then.
April 6th?
Yep.
Mayor,
That'd be fine.
you ready for motion?
Yes,
I
sir.
make a motion that we approve the items, the property that was described by Gary, and that we have it for a public comment period
On the April 6th
on
city
April
council
6th.
meeting.
Second.
Have a motion by Ed with a second by Betty. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is that we have a current contract with Civitas.
Civitas.
That's what it sounded like.
Mm-hmm.
Looked like. So they're currently providing professional services for our community development block grant program to make sure that we submit the necessary reports and whatever else. We had an agreement with them. It's now time to consider extending that agreement. If you may recall, we used to have a full-time person in there doing some of these same responsibilities, and we've done away with that position, and this company is providing those some of those services that were required previously. they've done a good job for the city. They're very good in what they do, so we would recommend we continue that. I think it's 60. How much is it?
72,000. It's
72,000.
6,000 a month. The total amount that's allowed for administration off of the loan, off of the grant is about 100,000 because we get about $500,000. So 20% of the grant is set aside for administrative costs.
So it'll be
which
paid
is-
for out of the grant, not out of the general fund.
Correct.
What was the name of the company again?
Civitas.
Civitas.
South Carolina.
And then currently, Matt, you're kind of overseeing that, correct? So
Correct.
From
I'm
the
I'm
management
involved
level.
in it.
Very
Yeah, I'm
good.
involved in it day to day.
Very good. Any questions, council? Seems like it's been working well and a
It's
good
been
way to
working
go.
very well.
They have the expertise.
They keep us in a good place.
Yes. A happy place.
A happy place.
Ready for a motion?
Move to approve an extension to the current agreement with Civitas LLC for the management of the Community Development Block Grant.
Second.
And just to be clear, that's at $72,000 a year.
Correct.
At
$6,000.
$72,000 a year.
We have a motion by Betty, second by Ed. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I think that takes care of all my business, Mayor.
We have some minutes for January
Minutes, right.
12th, January 19th, January 26th of 2017. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Second.
Motion by Joe with a second by Jimmy. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
They were nicely written.
Yes, they were, as always. Christina takes...
All right.
Oh. Gary, do we have need for a closed session? Do we have any reports from the council that you'd like to make? We did a bunch last week. I would like to just say, if you got in your mail today, there is a little, it's kind of last minute, but there is a little open house tomorrow at 2 p.m. at Legacy Elementary down on First South.
Well, you need to see it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It's really neat. 2 p.m., goes from 2 to 3, just quick. They'll do I don't know if they're doing a ribbon cutting. They're just kind of doing an, open house. I had a chance to go through it with the principal here a week or so ago. They are so happy and so proud of it. And wait till you see the gym. It's like no other elementary school gym because it's got hardwood floors and I don't know about the size, but it's bigger than most.
It's full length.
Is it full length? So it's tomorrow at 2. Any other reports, Jimmy?
Nope, I'm just going to say, my wife said there's nothing like a good gym.
GYM.
Depends on how you spell it. That was pretty witty, Gil. I mean, Jim.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't even get in the.
Mayor, I don't know if you, Ron Thompson contacted me about seeing if the council was interested in going on a field trip
Yes.
for about 4 hours, I believe. It's like from 10 to 2, they'll bring a lunch, but to look at the projects that are ongoing, and the projects like Gunlock, and look at just kind of what they're looking at as far as the projects for the next few years. He gave me some dates, 24th, 27th, 28th of March, and the 4th, 6th, 13th, and 14th of April.
Say those again, 24th.
27th, 28th of March, April 4th, 6th, 13th, and 14th.
So it's not the 17th. For some reason, I have that down that we were going with UDOT. but-
Oh, with UDOT? Might be,
This is
this is
water.
wrong.
This is water.
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
April 4th, sorry. What are the other
6th.
April?
13th, 14th.
6th, 13th, 14th. Isn't that part of the league?
League's here, so that wouldn't be,
Yeah.
wouldn't be
The
good.
14th's the art festival.
Is that a Friday?
Is that Easter?
Well, that's Easter weekend,
That's
isn't it?
off, probably.
So that's not good.
What are those?
24,
dates?
27, 28.
None of those are Thursdays, huh?
No.
I could go 27th or 28th.
10 to 2, yep.
We may be able to adjust that if we needed to, Joe. You know,
I'd be okay on the 24th, but that's about the only one.
that's a Friday though,
I
isn't it?
can't.
I can't either.
I'd go the 27th.
27th was, how was that, folks?
Good.
It works.
There's a homelessness committee that day. Do you miss those if Matt handles it? Should we, we'd have to check with Michelle too.
10,
He's
I
10
thought you
to
said
2.
10.
Starts at 10, or 9. Oh, does it?
So 27th?
Should we try that?
Yeah,
27th from,
it's just a tour.
it's a field trip.
Field
He talked about this with the board the other day. It's, he's trying to do this with all the city councils that are part of the district, just to help us see some of it. He won't be able to show you anywhere near all of their resources, but some of them, I think it'd be
We can
good.
go with the Quell Creek treatment plant and maybe some of the projects.
Yeah. Yeah, how'd that go? We won't go in a
We'll
plane.
take our bus, so we have
Yeah.
the control, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, we'll figure something out.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's meet here. Let's meet a few minutes early so we can, just a few, so we can get out of here.
So the 27th we'd look at?
27th.
I'm sure he's not going to get, I think he's going to get everybody there that can make it. But if they
Right.
can't, we can maybe go with another group.
True, good point. Anything else, council?
Well, back to the transportation on the 16th and the 17th, we kind of committed to providing lunch.
Or a light. So the UDOT Commissioners
Refreshments.
Tour is here
Oh, yeah,
on the 16th and 17th.
that's right.
They'll actually be meeting here on Friday morning at the Chambers, I think.
That's right.
Yeah, the
So-
16th is a tour, and then Friday is the meeting.
Nagy had
This
asked
is
us.
March.
Nagy had asked us to do something like, I mean, these are the people that make those good decisions on roads. Yeah, it'd be well worth our time to spend some time with them. So we just need to make sure, we need to, they're expecting about 35 people. They didn't expect a lot. They were just looking if we could provide some, he said soup and salad or something, but.
Well, lunch, however we want to do lunch.
Was it lunch or was it?
It's kind of a lunch. Soup
Okay.
and salad's lunch.
Yeah, I can't, I'll have to get from him, he's supposed to email me the exact time.
17th, Friday.
So the Friday one they want, right? Yeah. Yeah, because they're going to be here. Well, no.
No, I think
But
it's a lunch.
it's that Friday they're here.
So we do it in here. Can you arrange that? Maybe you and I and Gary can work on that. We'll figure that out. In terms of how many and what. Okay, okay. I think it'd be nice if we did it. That's what we were just
Yeah.
suggesting. And but we could keep it pretty simple. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Simple but nice.
So that is March 17th. Yeah.
Right. I'll get you Nagy's number.
I've got a
Who called
letter.
you?
I've got a letter in there that has information on it. Okay.
Yeah, they've
So
got
get
it.
that,
Yep.
get it scheduled so that,
And the tour is good for us to go too, because they'll be touring the road projects that are for us, so that's very timely.
I'm ready for a motion to adjourn unless you have anything else.
So moved.
Motion by Betty, second by Ed. Any discussion on that motion? Let's hear it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.